Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Laurie Actman with the Penn Center for Innovation. We're Penn's commercialization center. Today, I'm really pleased to host one of our partners based at the Pennovation Center, who leads our outreach, engagement, and programs for JPOD at Philadelphia. This is a very unique opportunity to leverage a lot of the resources available through JPOD, which again has a physical presence down at the Pennovation Center. And I'm really pleased to welcome Olivia McPherson, who's the program director for the JPOD here. And Olivia is a chemist by training. She has lots of great experience in some very prestigious academic-based labs, both here at Penn and in other places, and has been a great partner with PCI Ventures, and with the entire Pennovation community in terms of helping us develop early stage ideas in the life sciences, in health tech. I think the reach of JPOD also goes to nursing and beyond. So it's a very broad type of engagement that they bring to the table. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Olivia.
So I'm here to talk about the JPOD at Philadelphia, which is a partnership between Johnson & Johnson and the University of Pennsylvania, designed to benefit the innovation ecosystem of Philadelphia as a whole. So first things first, that means that it's not exclusive to Penn. You don't have to be a Penn researcher or clinician, though we love to see you there, and this will have some specific information for Penn folks. But it is open to the entire area with the hopes of engaging collaborations and growing the ecosystem. So the JLabs is part of innovation at Johnson & Johnson, which is a vertical that they have in the brand across all stages of business development outside of Johnson & Johnson. So there are a number of different arms of it. So the innovation centers are located around the world. There's one in Boston, one in Shanghai, one in London, and they are talent scouts for deals. JJDC is the investment arm of Johnson & Johnson Innovation, and they sign checks to help businesses develop further. JLabs is the life science incubator system, of which the JPOD at Philadelphia is a part. And the incubator is a slight misnomer, which is what we'll be talking about mostly during the talk today. So we use JLabs as an umbrella term for all of the JLabs and the JPODs. I'll break that down a little bit. And then there are later stage business deals that work on acquisition, among other things. So JLabs is global. Our most recently open site is in Washington, D.C. at Children's National. There are sites along the East Coast in New York, Boston, okay, Cambridge, we all know they're in Cambridge, 2 in Cambridge, one at UMass Lowell that specializes in medical devices, Toronto, San Diego, San Francisco, Texas Medical Center, then there are international sites in Bursa and again in Shanghai. The difference between the JLabs as a term and the JPODs is that the labs are hard sites and residents come in and they're tenants of the building. It's set up as a co-working site, much like the Pennovation Center or the Science Center. And then the JPODs are a little more independent, and they handle a more virtual side of the JLabs experience. So I like to say that the JLabs are an incubator and an accelerator, and the JPODs are the accelerator portion with your choice of an incubator. So there's no residency requirement. And here are some attractive pictures of the JPOD at Philadelphia. So we're located on the 2nd floor of the Pennovation Center. It's a very high-tech room with a beautiful telepresence system. And now that we've all spent the last 2 years speaking to cameras, everyone, I'm sure, is up to speed on how to use one of those. It is a marvelous building. It's a wonderful site. I love working down there. If you haven't gotten a chance to visit yet, give us a call. We'll be happy to show you around. It's a really incredible part of campus, and it's just across the river. So JLabs on the whole is about getting large company benefits to small companies. So there are a number of agreements that J&J has negotiated on behalf of JLabs companies, including relationships with investors as well as commercial service providers, so that nobody has to cold call Charles River Labs and try to negotiate as a team of 5. There are channels that are available to JLabs companies to smooth that right along. The businesses that are relevant to the interests of JLabs and on the whole, Johnson & Johnson, are across all of the sectors of J&J business, including medical devices, consumer, therapeutics, and digital, and all of the interfaces of those. And then there are the offerings and the benefits of becoming a JLabs company. First and foremost are the programs. These are currently all virtual, and the majority of them are open to the public at no cost. So you can see what webinars are coming up, and then there's also an existing library of webinars that you can view on demand. One of the hacks that I like about the on-demand webinars, especially for people that are a little short on time, if you sign up and register, you get a copy of the deck. So you can go through the slides at your leisure, on your iPad, on the train, and without having to necessarily commit to 45 minutes or an hour for another webinar. So I like the convenience aspect of that. It lets me think that I can make it through a whole bunch of talks at once. There are, of course, question and answers within the webinars as well, so you can participate a little more fully if you want to get the full experience. And the webinars are across all different areas of business development for the life sciences. It includes regulatory specifications for various types of therapeutics, coming up with strategies for getting your device approved, how to talk to investors, what's it like meeting with an angel versus a VC company, and also very science-forward talks that feature the work that Johnson & Johnson is doing in concert with what's being developed at various companies within the cohort. Okay, and then, of course, there is support from Johnson & Johnson as a whole and all of the employees within it. I wouldn't say that they're all currently at your disposal or at your fingertips. Not all 130,000 will pick up if you cold call them, but there is a team of marketing experts and research and development folks that support the JLabs cohorts. And most specifically, and this is one of my favorite parts of the program, are the JPALs. So these are internal experts from Johnson & Johnson that are each matched with a company in the JLabs. So you have a personal mentor that you can meet with at your discretion, at your convenience. I would say folks tend to meet either monthly or quarterly, and they have non-confidential discussions with their JPALs about what it is that their business needs to do, what it is that they're looking to do. I've seen scientific spitballing, really excellent collegiate relationships. One of my favorite pieces of supporting evidence that the JPALs are really the heart of the JLabs program is that over the course of COVID, 2 of the older JPALs that were matched with companies retired from Johnson & Johnson, but went on to retain positions with the companies that they were mentoring, either on the board or as a scientific advisor. So the people that participate as JPALs are actively interested in cutting edge science and how to get that work to patients as quickly and efficiently as possible. They're a fantastic resource, and I love seeing how excited 30-year executives get about talking to founders that are going out for the first time and connecting on bench science and that sort of thing. It's really, really quite positive. Another portion of benefits that comes along with being a JLabs company is exposure. So JLabs has access to the entire marketing machine of Johnson & Johnson. So there is a lot of social network promotion across Twitter. There are newsletters with focused write-ups of companies. We do a great job of promoting events that you have coming up and wins that companies have had. So we had a founder who was one of the top innovators from technically Baltimore, and we were able to spread that a little farther than Baltimore across the technically region and get that out across the JLabs region as well. So that's very exciting. We scour the headlines to keep up with everything that's happening, and we also rely on a little bit of self-reporting. So if you have a pitch competition that's coming up that you'd like people to check out, we can get some butts and seats for that for you. So the exposure is pretty broad across social media, and it's also my particular favorite part of the exposure is the in-house JLabs Navigator. And this is the publicly facing database of all of the portfolio companies within JLabs, both present and alumni. You can see breakdowns of the sectors that they're in. There's information about their stage of development. And then you can see that there are the bubbles for the populations in each region. And I'm not sure how big your screens are, but you might be able to see that it says 22 in Philadelphia. So we're going to zoom in on what one of those companies looks like. So each of the companies gets their own presence on the Navigator, which can be used to solidify information about engagement with JLabs. You can put it in pitch decks and show that you're there. You have logo control, there's contact information. Companies generate their own keywords so that investors that are looking through the Navigator can just click on CAR-T and see everybody that comes up for that, or you can get more specific as well. And everything is conveniently presented as a problem and a solution, which makes translating your science in a language way, not necessarily in an IP way, makes translating your science incredibly effective. So you have a really solid, almost an elevator pitch for talking about your work with folks that might not have a background in your area of expertise. So as of today, and I checked these numbers 20 minutes ago, there are 793 portfolio companies, and you can see the areas that they are across. The large body are in pharmaceuticals. Next up is medical devices. Consumer has the lowest number of companies, just because that tends to be the nature of what's coming out of academia. And I found that most of those companies tend to be located in New York, as that is the headquarters for Neutrogena. So a lot of those companies are in skin microbiome and dermatological healing and that sort of thing. So that tracks. And of those companies, here are 20 that are in the Philadelphia JPOD. So there are only 20 that are up here. 2 of the companies are currently stealth, so we're not going to give them a lot of highlight, but we'll be ready when they are. I have this split by companies that are affiliated with Penn in some way, and ones that are from elsewhere across the region. So Arrow is at the Science Center, OrthoForge is out in Bryn Mawr, Synavi is in Baltimore, Algometrics was in Bryn Mawr and just relocated to DC. And then Nanochan here was our first distance company. They were a retention from the university, from George Washington University. They were initially accepted into JLabs New York, and their funding fell through and they weren't able to relocate into that beautiful building that they have there. But we were able to keep them in the talent pipeline with a JPAL, with constant mentoring, with access to the programming and investment seminars until they're ready for their next step. And the most important question that everybody has is, how do you get into the JLabs? And there is a selection criteria and a process, and there are 3 fairly straightforward ways to onboard to that. The most direct is to apply to be a JLabs company. Whether that's a JLabs company or a JPOD company, it's still the same landing site for that. They ask for a non-confidential summary of your information, including fiduciary background, areas of interest, current state of the science, and they want to see a credible team leading it. So that first application goes to selection committee. If they have any questions, they'll reach out and get in touch with you. They're pretty hands-on once you get to that portion. And then there's a notice of either acceptance or rejection. And the rejection is awesome. And now I don't mean to say that it's great to get a no, But you don't just get a no, you get insight into why the company was not currently a good fit for JLabs, whether that's the development of the science stage, whether perhaps they want to see animal data before they move forward. Maybe the area is slightly out of focus for JJI at this time, but they give constructive and critical feedback on your work. And I found that that answers a lot of questions that particularly academic researchers have about how to make their research relevant to the interests of pharmaceutical and therapeutic companies. There are so many people that have just incredible platforms that they're working on and developing, or libraries of small molecules, and they have very broad applications. And the trouble is identifying what particular application is going to have legs and run. So that's info that can certainly be used to develop your work in that way. So the compelling science and technology tends to align with the areas of interest of J&J. And this next slide is available on the JJI website, so you don't have to screen cap it or try to read it all too quickly. But it gets into a little more detail about specifics for areas of interest. When I started in this role, I was allowed to say they're interested in cardiac health, and that's a pretty big bucket. And now they've gotten much more specific, which I certainly appreciate. So there's info about, specific pathways that are of interest to the oncology departments and that sort of thing, as well as particular diseases that they're working on. So as I mentioned, the direct application is one of the on-roads. The next on-road is via the Blue Knight program. This is part of BARDA and funding from the NIH with very specific applications for preparedness and response. As you would imagine, there were it was COVID focused for the last couple of years. So you can always check up on the BARDA site, and this is a really great program that they're developing. And then the last portion of onboarding are the Quickfire Challenges. So Quickfire Challenges are competitions that are posted and hosted by Johnson & Johnson. They tend to relate to either specific areas of therapeutic interest or specific areas of founder diversity. There have been nursing innovative challenges that are open to anyone that has nurses in the C-suite. It was great to see how many nurse founders there were coming through that. Or they can be geographic. So we had a Philadelphia one to launch the JPOD. Then there was most recently a third world diseases initiative that they granted funding for. So the difference between the Quickfire Challenges and the other two is that you do not have to be a corporate entity, but acceptance into all three of them results in access to the JLabs ecosystem. Quickfire Challenges run from $10,000 prizes to up to $250,000, depending on the area, and there tend to be 3 or 4 open at a time. Actually, one of the stealth companies that I can't put the logo up for yet won a recent health innovation prize, and I'm really excited to see what they are going to be working on. They're a local company, and we're excited to have them on board. So the QFC, again, comes with the prize money. You do not have to be incorporated. That's the biggest difference between the QFC and any of the other application types. And there was some fine print at the beginning that mentioned that JLabs is a no strings attached model. And I'd like to give you a little clarity about what that means. The 3 biggest concerns are they going to see my stuff? Are they going to take my ideas? Is this going to lock me into anything that I might want to change at a later date for my business? Johnson & Johnson does not look at confidential information. They will kick back your deck if you accidentally leave a watermark on it, and it's great to see every time. It's not worth the hassle to start messing around with IP that should not have been disclosed, and they've been spectacularly above board, which is, I think, something that a lot of faculty members may be concerned with. My favorite example is a first-year resident came in for office hours with one of our experts and had a great idea for something that he came up with when he was in the ER. And within 5 minutes, the person meeting with him realized that he, A, had a good idea, B, didn't have a patent on it, and they spent the rest of the office hours going through how to protect his intellectual property so that he could come back in 4 or 5 months and have a more in-depth conversation. So I really like that regardless, it was a good use of everybody's time. So they don't look at IP, they don't own any IP, and there's no right of first refusal. So that keeps your options within the ecosystem very open. And to that end, Johnson & Johnson has historically brought in the venture funding arms from organizations that would otherwise be considered their competitors. So Novartis Ventures has come in, AbbVie and Roche have all taken meetings with JLabs Companies. And the way that I like to think about it is that there's no avenue of success that's shut off by virtue of participating in the JLabs. So it's been really effective for a lot of founders in terms of networking, in terms of moving quickly, in terms of getting their products into patients. One thing that is really neat about the Navigator, what I showed you in this presentation is the front end and the public facing side. And now, if you imagine the back end, every company has their own profile and can engage with the other companies. So it's an internal private social network, so that a medical device company can find everybody across all of the sites working on similar problem areas, which I think is really exciting. And finding peers within the founder community is so important. And the support and positive growth that can come out of that is immeasurable. So I really like the fact that it brings people together regardless of their location. It's a little easier in JLabs New York, where everybody's in the same building and they can go in for a lunch. But then we have a lot of flexibility in what getting together looks like in Philadelphia. So I think that's a really innovative way to experience the JLabs community. And if you have any more, if you'd like to find out more information, you can email J&J Innovation, follow us on Twitter, visit all of the websites. These links are pretty straightforward and easy to find, but if you have actual follow-up questions and would like to talk more in depth about what your project is, what the JPOD could do for you, how to work on an application, please feel free to email me at olivia.mcpherson@upenn.edu, and I would be more than happy to set some time to speak with you further. I'd love to look at your deck, help you get slides in fancy order. I do a lot of pitch prep with people, so if you ever want some feedback on something like that, I would be more than happy to do that as well. So that is my intro to the JPOD at Philadelphia, and I'd be happy to take any questions if people have them.
Thanks so much, Olivia. That was a great overview and scope of the programs and how to get engaged. I wanted to ask you to elaborate a bit more. At what point should someone kind of contact you? Is it okay to contact you just to learn more? Do you want folks to kind of do some exploring on the website first? You know, and maybe if you could talk a little more about the breadth of ideas that you guys sometimes get approached with.
Oh, the breadth of ideas. Do you mean in terms of what companies are working on that have expressed interest in joining, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it covers everything. It's really impressive. So for Philadelphia, I've seen a lot of device work, specifically for platform and diagnostics. a little less on the implantables. And then therapeutics, we have some heavy hitters for CAR T and gene therapy. They're not quite as active in small molecules, but that depends on the disease area. One of the cancers, they're specifically interested in small molecules, and forgive me, I can't recall if it's bladder or pancreatic, but that is freely available. One of the newer companies is a digital platform for keeping home care workers engaged with medical support teams, so that family members that may be becoming isolated doing home health care for other family members can access community and support, as well as making sure that their relevant daily information gets uploaded into medical charts appropriately, and that any small changes can be noted by the professionals. So it's pretty broad. There are companies that do novel injection types. We have one company that effectively they're working on what is effectively a glow stick model for a therapeutic that needs to be mixed at time of use. And there's currently nothing on the market. And so that leaves folks sitting at Target mixing up their protein and their distilled water, trying to get an injection done within half an hour. And now they'll be able to crack a device, shake it up, and have their injection ready to go. So truly some novel applications to existing problems, whether they're disease-based problems, healthcare-based problems, or access-based problems.
Great. That was super helpful. Thank you.
I got one question as a direct message. What is the typical cost to be in the JPOD? It is no cost. It is free. That is the last no string. You don't even have to rent a place from us. We will let you in. Oh, yes. And the JPOD is also, I believe it's in a KIS zone. Lori, do you know if we're KIS or CAUSE?
I don't know offhand which one.
Okay, we can check the zoning maps later.
Okay, well, with that, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll look forward to hopefully more participation from our ecosystem in your programs. And I hope everyone has a great rest of the day. Thank you.